Hello, welcome to the Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. In this video, I am going to be covering the Hedonites of Slaanesh update for the Scourge of Ghyran, which is the new seasonal rules for Age of Sigmar running from the summer of this year till the summer of next year. This gives you a bunch of additional rules that you're going to be able to use for your army. Much like Chumbawamba, the cool thing about the Hedonites of Slaanesh is they do love getting knocked down, but they also love getting back up again. So let's go and look at their rules. So the first thing you get are two new battle formations. So actually, let's quickly recap Hedonites of Slaanesh in Age of Sigmar 4. They have not been overly good. However, ironically, if you were to take an excess of Blissbarb Archers and Blissbarb Seekers, a lot of shooting, as we've seen being played around, you actually could kind of tip the balance on exactly too many arrows to bring and make a very effective army. Now, also, some people have posted some pretty good results with different elements of the armies as well, but they definitely haven't been in the upper echelons of competitive Age of Sigmar, but they've never really been right at the bottom either. So they've kind of been okay with pick rate being kind of medium. I think it's worth just pointing that out. So when looking for an update or looking for some additional rules, I think probably things I would like to see is more cohesion between the demons and mortals side of this book. So the first two new things you get are battle formations. The first one, Pretenders, allows you to, once per battle in your deployment phase, use the Prodigy of Excess special rule. You pick a friendly Hedonites of Slaanesh hero that has an artifact of power to be the target. Give that target a heroic trait from the figureheads of the Dark Prince or the Hedonistic Obsessions tables. There's a designer's note as well that this heroic trait is given the target during deployment phase, not during army composition. The reason this is important is you are going to get a free heroic trait in army list writing, which means you get a second heroic trait, which is cool, on the one on your character who's got an artifact. And in addition to this, you're going to be able to pick at the start of the battle, so you're going to be able to really kind of tailor what you choose to play against someone. Now, that sounds quite strong, but the effects are pretty nominal in some cases. Also, it's a little bit problematic maybe to make this happen because several of your good characters, Shelaxi and Glutos, Sigvald, are all named unique characters who can't take a heroic trait. So it's a little bit of a problem there. So this one's kind of okay. We'll look at the heroic traits as well and kind of talk about which one, but getting an extra one, I guess, is fun. The next battle formation is Invaders, and you get Ecstatic Revelers as a passive. You add one to the Rend characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Cyberite infantry units while they're wholly outside friendly territory. Now, this is pretty nice because it's going to affect your Painbringers, your Twin Souls, and also your Slangor, which everyone still wants to be good. They've kind of been like they're the joke meme coin of Age of Sigmar in many ways. They've always kind of been absolutely so garbage you don't want to play them. They're kind of okay now. There's an update of Warscroll we're going to talk about in a moment in the upcoming video. So that's interesting. The problem with Cyberite infantry, or generally any Slaanesh infantry, is slow. Getting up the board, getting into the enemy territory, or getting outside of your territory is a little bit more difficult than you maybe want it to be. The other thing to say, though, in kind of counter against that, is when you're playing some battle plans, and we'll see that when we do the new battle plan review, the territory is very different. The territory is not necessarily always half and half of a map. Sometimes it's only a small section of the map. So it might be that 2/3 of the map actually this might work in, which does make it much better. So it's also battle plan dependent. So if you are playing at an event, check out which battle plans before you get play. So of the two, I think I prefer taking an extra heroic trait for me. Now, you do get a new heroic trait table as well. So you've got two different heroic trait tables to choose from. And the first heroic trait you get is called Celebrity Warlord, which is a command ability. You can tell by the little command point symbol there. It's only going to cost 1. Once per battle in your movement phase, you can pick a friendly non-hero Cyberite unit that's been destroyed to be the target. You set up a replacement unit with half the number of models from the target unit, rounding up, wholly within 12 of this unit, more than 9 inches from enemy units. Now, this one is really, really good because obviously being able to do recursion or get models back is nice. Also, you've got some very cool Cyberite units in your Slickblade Seekers, your Twin Souls, your Painbringers. Bringing back 5 of each of those because they're 5/10s. You can take 5, upgrade to a 10, is all very effective. So this is very nice. Yes, it's only once per battle, but it's a free couple of 100 points to add back into your army, maybe at exactly the right time. The other ability, the Master of Temptation, is in the enemy hero phase. You can only use this ability if your opponent has any temptation dice, which is the battle mechanic or the battle trait that you get for playing Slaanesh. You pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches of this unit to be the target. For the rest of the turn, while your opponent has not used any of their temptation dice to replace a roll for the target of this turn, the target can only use core abilities. What the hell? It's a great point. What the hell does this mean? Let's start with a couple of things that are important to point out. Number one, this only starts to work in the enemy hero phase. Okay. You pick an enemy unit, right, within 18 inches of this unit to be the target. So there's a couple of stipulations already. This does mean that this ability is only going to kick in after your opponent has already had all their abilities that they've done in the hero phase, which is where quite a lot of abilities do happen. However, it means until they use a temptation dice, which people use for runs, they use for charges, they can use for hit, wound saves, and a bunch of other stuff, then they're not going to use anything other than a core ability. Okay, this is pretty nice. A good example would be Alarielle. Alarielle in the enemy turn is going to be able to bring models back from the dead using a non-core ability in the movement phase. So that will happen after when this ability happens. But which enemy this works on and when and where is very dependent. But that's why the initial formation of being able to choose between, hey, I'm always going to bring back, 5 dudes using Celebrity Warlord. Oh, actually, I'm in a matchup where shutting down an enemy's non-core abilities could win me the game. Master of Temptation. Now, this is going to be one of those things where Slaanesh players are going to be really excited about maybe using this ability in certain matchups versus the opponent who's not going to have a single clue what the hell you're talking about until it happens. So that's quite fascinating. That's a really fascinating ability and interesting. The next one is a passive, the Need for Perfection. The first time each turn an unmodified charge roll, casting roll, unbinding roll, or banishment roll for friendly non-euphoric unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit is 5 or less, that unit has the euphoric keyword for the rest of the turn. The ability to get the euphoric keyword, though, is obviously cool. It's definitely good for melee units. It's good for mobility as well, and I find it quite interesting. Of the three, I think the first one's the most obviously powerful. The second one is the most situationally niche, but could be really intrinsically useful to a Slaanesh army in the right context. Really depends on how you want to play and how much you want to big brain it. And I think if you're playing Slaanesh, you need to big brain it because it's a super tough army to run around the board. Okay, you have 2 additional Warscrolls. So these are kind of like alternative Warscrolls to the core Warscrolls that you get from the book. Okay. So the first one is Celeste, the Vengeful Allegiance. Okay, so this is a dual model. It's all on one base. 9 health, 4 up save, and it's got a 5 up ward save. So it's a frontline combat character. Like, I'm not, for someone who always complains about frontline combat characters, I'm okay with that. 4 up, 5 up, fine. Moves 8 inches, control value of 4, so not quite a monster. 4 attacks damage 3, 6 attacks damage 2. Now it's got one passive, which is super complex, and really does bring together the demon mortal side of the book, but I don't think particularly effectively. When players are alternating picking units to use a fight ability, when it's your turn to pick a unit, instead of picking one unit, you can pick a friendly non-hero Hedonites of Slaanesh demon unit wholly within 18 and a non-hero Cyberite unit wholly within 18 this unit. Resolve the second fight ability after the first. Now, I see why they chose non-heroes, because you don't want Shalaxi and then Glutos to fight simultaneously. That could probably be pretty oppressive, although you would also have to bring Celeste with you, and that would be quite a huge points investment to make that happen. Instead, you're going to get a unit of Demonettes fighting at the same time as a unit of Twin Souls, and that can be quite effective in the right situation for sure, but if you're taking a bunch of Demonettes, or you're taking like the Mortals, does the book really encourage you to cohesively stick those together? Is this enough to make you cohesively stick them together? That's a great question. Okay, next up, you've got Wandering Minds, which is a spell cast on a 6. You pick up to 1 visible friendly non-hero Cyberite infantry unit and 1 visible friendly non-hero Hedonites of Slaanesh demon infantry units to be the target. If you picked a Cyberite target, then you can subtract 1 from ward rolls for damage points inflicted by its combat attack. So you pick a Cyberite unit, that unit attacks a unit, now they're -1 to their ward save. If you choose a demon unit, then they get a 5 up ward save. So you add survivability to demons and you make more output for Cyberites, or one or the other. That's quite nice. Again, you're bringing both. You're not focusing on the heroes. You're focusing on units to do the job. You make them more impactful, interesting. Lastly, Violent Offerings is at the end of any turn, which is the end of every turn. If any damage points are allocated to an enemy wizard or priest by this unit's combat attacks this turn, and that enemy unit has been destroyed, you add 1 to this unit's power level for the rest of the battle. This unit can be affected by this ability multiple times, and the effects are cumulative. Now, in the right situation, you can have a power level 11 wizard. I don't even want that, because I would cast all the manifestations, I would then cast all of the spell lore, and I would cast the other spell, and I would still have like 5 or 6, maybe 4 or 5 spells left to cast with nothing to cast. So I do like it, though. It's very thematic. It's very cool and it's very interesting. But yeah, that one's just a bit of a gimmick and a bit more fun, and not the same gimmick as Light of Altharion being able to just bring a model back to the board. So overall, with Celeste, I think, is this enough to bring those 2 portions of the book together? I don't think it is. And definitely the bonuses you get for both are not super strong. Although maybe Champions of the Gilded Throne is the strongest one. It doesn't require me to roll a dice. I get to fight with 2 units at the same time. That's actually pretty good. Now, lastly, the Slangor Fiendbloods have had a new War Scroll, which is fun. I'm expecting every update to get the Slangor to get a new War Scroll that's still not great. Now, they've got, it's a unit of 3 models, reinforced up to unit of 6. They've got 3 health each, and they have a 5-up save. Now, my sticking point is the 5-up save. A reinforced unit is going to have a health pool of 18 on a 5-up save. Gotta say, not great. And before I talk about anything else, that's my issue with this unit. Now, as a damaging unit, they've got more impactful than their index version, with 4 attacks each and a champion, which means you're either going to have 13 or 25 attacks if you reinforce it, hit on 4s, which is a massive negative, win on 3s, only rend 1, but it's damage 2, and on the charge, damage 3. Now, it's pretty exciting to get 25 attacks, damage 3. I absolutely agree with you. The problem is going to be the delivery system of making a unit that's very fragile take that many attacks over. And I would say the quality of these attacks is in the quantity. It's also got a high damage point as well, but it's the fact that you've got a lot of them. And as soon as you start to whittle them down, they really go down, like, you kill them down to 3 as an example. Then I'm going to get 13 attacks hitting on 4s, which means I've only hit with half, wound on 3s. And also with the changes to all-out attack, which would give me +1 to hit, which means I'm -1 defense, they also cannot take a hit back. So the real question is can they do enough damage to hit when they go in? Now, you can put them into Deep Strike using Veiled Threat and also Bestial Onslaught, which is going to let you deploy them in any movement phase. This is actually super cool because they'll be put in reserve when you're deploying, and then you'll bring them on in any movement phase, which means your opponent's going to move all their stuff around, and you're going to put them on the board. That's awesome. Setting you up for a counter charge, which is also going to work really well thanks to their new ability, Instinctive Advance, where once per phase for the army, your opponent declared a command for a unit within 12 inches of this unit. Immediately after that command on the ability to the direction has been resolved, this unit can move 3 inches. It can move through the combat range of enemy units and can end that move in combat. So it basically means if you deep strike these guys 9 inches away from the enemy, they try to redeploy, you can move another 3 inches forward. There are other situations where they're also going to be able to move 3 inches as well. And this is only once per phase across the army. The output is fine. The survivability is weak. Glass cannons are a really interesting kind of conversation piece. When people talk about damage dealing units in Age of Sigmar, Witch Elves are a really good example of a damage dealing of a glass cannon piece, which I think does it's the right version of a damage dealing piece, a glass cannon, in that it does an obliteratingly high amount of damage, but it is also very, very fragile. This is an example of a unit that I think does an okay amount of damage, and it's still pretty fragile. Like, it just is. It's 18 health, which means if you think about it the other way, it's just 18 Witch Elves. So it's 2 less than even a unit of 20. And they're 150 points per 3. So it's going to take up to 300 points. Listen, I don't want to be the person who's not even delivering the bad news, but I do want to play you down. I think Slangors will catch people out. I think you could take, especially with all of the bonuses you can get, if you are running, when you're running them in Slaanesh, like you're going to get crit 2 hits, or you're going to get crit mortals. That's a way of definitely increasing the effectiveness of this unit, for sure. And also, I kind of think that they will work okay. Just think that they could have been, a 4-up save. Would a 4-up save have killed them? I don't know. Anyway, that's my review of the Hedonites of Slaanesh. That is it. Let me know what you think of the rules changes and the updates in the comments below. That would be really nice. It's been really fun making these, and obviously with the new GHB out soon, I'm really excited about making videos about that as well. So let me know what you think and what you like in these videos, and I'll see you soon. Bye.